Separating your drawings into layers as you work will save you time in a number of ways. Now, I like to set up my default layers to help me stay really organized and help me produce my boards faster. For instance, on the very bottom layer, I like to start with my thumbnail or my roughs, which you can see here. I can turn them on or off. And then on higher layers, I can set them up for my backgrounds, as you see here, or for my individual characters. I might draw them in over my rough, and then I can just turn off my rough layer without having to do any erasing. Super fast. On layers above that, I might have ink or props or foreground elements, and I always like to have separate layers for both arrows and for notes. That way, if I'm writing notes for somebody on something, and I like to have my notes in red, have something here, move him, and I'll go back in later, or another artist will come in, and then we can just turn off the notes layer and it doesn't show up anywhere. As a story artist, you're always going to have changes. So just plan for them, and then changes will be that much quicker and easier. So, for instance, if I keep my background on one layer, as we see here, and then I keep my characters on a separate layer, and El Cervezo here in the foreground, if the director comes in and says, you know what, let's move El Cervezo a little bit further off camera, well, all I have to do is select that layer, and select El Cervezo, and I can just move him very quickly anywhere I want and just ask the director, what do you think? More over like that. And I don't have to redraw anything. I just move the layer. It's fantastic. It also helps me to keep the characters and elements on separate layers to help me when I'm making my animatics. Then I can just do a really quick animated move. For instance, I can set my first layer transform there, my second layer transform here, and as I'm working that quickly, I've animated my character. By keeping all your layers separate, this makes everything so much easier. Now, there's another really cool thing that I can do here, which is use of arrows. I'm a real big proponent of proper arrow use. So if I'm going to draw a layer, I like to have my layers separately, and I'll show you why here. So let's say I've got El Cervezo, I want to show that he's going to be moving forward. So I'll put a quick little 3D arrow right here and showing that he's moving forward. But I won't want that arrow to show up on my animatic. So what do? Well, this is very cool. So let's open up another layers window. So Windows drop down, select layers. This looks just like the layers that show up next to my artwork, but there's a big difference right up here on top where it's talking about selected layer. I can select which each layer gets exported to or not. So as long as I have my arrows layer selected here, I'm going to turn off movie. So when I export an MOV or an AVI, the arrows won't show up. I only want arrows to show up in my printed version because the motion's actually happening in the animatic. And that's all I have to do. I could do the same thing for if I don't want something to show up on PDF, like notes, or Toon Boom, which refers to exporting out to the animation software. So planning your layers to save you time is really quick. You could separate your drawings onto various layers, and your production will move faster, and changes won't bother you nearly as much.